In Screwed News, last Friday, Vermont's House of Representatives passed a bill requiring that all foods containing genetically modified organisms, GMOs, be labeled in that state. While the bill is far from becoming law in the Green Mountain State, this is the furthest any GMO labeling legislation has ever made it through the legislative process in any state in the United States. That's largely because GMO companies like Monsanto are spending tens of millions of dollars all over the country to prevent GMO labeling bills from becoming law. This flood of money from bioagriculture helped to defeat Proposition 37 in California last November, which would have required all GMO foods to be labeled in that state. So while the fight to label GMO foods marches on nationwide, and the battle's already been won, by the way, in Europe, where they do label GMO foods, what can Americans do right now to educate themselves about the potentially dangerous substances and chemicals that we're putting into our bodies? Joining me now are Dr. Jayson Calton, nutrition scientist, and Mira Calton, food advocate and certified nutritionist. Both are co-authors of the new book, Rich Food, Poor Food, The Ultimate Grocery Purchasing System. Mira, Dr. Calton, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for joining us. And I'll just toss these questions to both of you. You know better than me which of you would be the appropriate person to answer them, if that's okay with you. I'm curious, what are the banned bad boys, and why are they dangerous for our health?
Well, the banned bad boys, there's actually 13 of them. They're foods that are banned in other countries because they're dangerous or very bad for your health. But in our country, we don't have any problem with them. They're still put in our foods today. And they're common things like artificial colors. 5 artificial colors are actually banned in other countries. And that's because they're carcinogenic and cause attention deficit disorder in kids. Yet today, they're in almost all of the foods in the grocery store.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So now let's talk about genetically modified foods. Jayson, 80% of the foods, if my statistics are right, of packaged foods today contain GMO ingredients, genetically modified organisms.
Exactly, of one sort or another. I mean, here's a statistic that's kind of interesting. The average American weighs about 179 pounds. Did you know that on average we eat 193 pounds of genetically modified food each and every year?
Whoa.
So this is something that's, we really need to get to the bottom of this, and we need to show consumers how it is we're going to identify these genetically modified ingredients in our foods.
So how do you do that?
Well, that's why we wrote Rich Food, Poor Food. That's one of the main reasons. We want to make sure that every single time the consumer comes up in the grocery store aisle and they come up against a food, we show them, hey, this food might have a dangerous banned ingredient in it, or one of the ingredients may be potentially genetically modified. And it's not just things like produce and meats or fish that could be genetically modified, but also the produce's derivatives. For instance, 93% of soy is genetically modified in this country, 86% of corn. And there's a lot of derivatives that are made from soy and corn that consumers need to be made aware of.
And so how does somebody know or hope? I mean, what are any suggestions for people when they're shopping? Mira, what do you do to try if you want to avoid genetically modified organisms?
Well, first of all, always read the ingredient list, because that's where you're going to find out the truth. One thing to look for is always look for an organic product, because organic products will never be genetically modified. Now, if you're going to have meat, or you're going to have seafood, or any sort of protein, you want to also make sure it's organic, because that's going to make sure that they didn't eat something that had been genetically modified. And a lot of animals are now eating genetically modified soy and corn. Additionally, you can look for a little label on there that says non-GMO project. That's another great way that you can be assured. But there's a really great thing in our book, but there's a whole appendix where we list all of the different products from dairy all the way to dessert, and we list the companies that are doing it right. So if you find one of these companies and you can bring it to the grocery store with you, you can be assured that you're not going to eat genetically modified foods.
Dr. Jayson Calton, is there a reason to avoid genetically modified foods?
In my opinion, I think there is. I mean, there's really been no human studies on GMOs, so we don't really know what the long-term effects are. I guess you could say one of the longest, long-term studies on human health is being done right now in America on us. We're kind of the guinea pigs on this. But, when monarch butterflies, their favorite food, milkweed, was dusted with GMO corn pollen, they died by the thousands. In Japan, they put out a protein powder that had genetically modified amino acids in it, and they had metabolism and mental damage, and several people died. They couldn't pull it off the shelf fast enough. So, while the jury is out as to whether or not GMOs are actually going to be bad for us, I can't imagine they're going to be good.
Yeah. Mira, we just have a half a minute here left. Rich food, poor food. Why that title?
Well, rich food does not mean expensive food. Rich food means it's rich in vitamins and minerals, those essential things that we need in our food every single day to keep us healthy. And poor food has poor food ingredients. Those things like GMOs and those bad boys and sinister sugar substitutes, all of those things that we want to leave out. And we guide you in every single aisle, like I said, to find those foods and tell you exactly which ones are safe to purchase.
Yeah. And in fact, I understand there's now an app out, although they ask you to join their group and all this boycott app that tells you about this?
Yeah, the boycott app, exactly.
Yeah.
But that appendix in the back of our book is a great companion for that boycott app because, again, we tell you the companies that are not putting the GMOs in the food so regular consumers can use it right now today before labeling laws go into effect.
Okay. Dr. Jayson Calton and Mira Calton, thank you both for being with us tonight.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks for having us.